What if the Senate did not applaud when Palpatine formed the Empire? What would happen then? We pick up with Mace Windu sensing a plot to destroy the Jedi. Let's begin. In the early evening on Coruscant, several Jedi Masters gather in the temple's war room under growing unease. Mace Windu, Yoda, Ki-Adi-Mundi, and others convene around a hollow table, their expressions grim. I sense a plot to destroy the Jedi, Mace warns. Ki-Adi-Mundi suggests that if Palpatine refuses to relinquish his emergency powers after General Grievous is defeated, the Jedi should remove him from office, possibly by leveraging the Republic Security Council. This bold idea triggers concern. Yoda cautions that forcibly seizing control could lead the Jedi down a dark path. The Masters debate their options, acutely aware of Palpatine's tightening grip over the Senate and the courts. Finally, Mace Windu proposes a controversial plan born of desperation, using battle meditation to subtly influence the hearts and minds of the Republic's leadership, steering them away from Palpatine's shadow without a direct coup. Battle meditation, though typically employed in military conflicts, was at its core a force technique for influencing minds on a massive scale. They could use it to clear the fog of deception Palpatine had cast over these institutions without risking armed confrontation with loyal forces like the Coruscant Guard. The Council recognized the wisdom in this strategy. It would address Palpatine's most potent weapon, his ability to manipulate perception while minimizing bloodshed. As they finalized their unprecedented plan, a communication from Ahsoka Tano briefly interrupted. She reported from Mandalore on Maul's capture, requesting to speak with Anakin about an urgent matter. Learning he had already departed for Palpatine's office, she ended the transmission with visible concern. The Masters dispersed to prepare for a battle that would be waged not with lightsabers, but through the concentrated will of the Force itself, attempting to restore clarity to minds long influenced by the dark side. Immediately, a team of powerful Jedi assembles atop the central spire of the Jedi Temple. Master Shakti leads the gathering, surrounded by several Jedi consulars specializing in Force perception and the unifying aspects of the Force. These Jedi seers, skilled in interpreting currents and potentialities, sit cross-legged in a perfect circle. Battle meditation is a rare ability that requires the subtle manipulation of collective consciousness, a technique these consulars have studied extensively. Together, they channel the light side into a massive, unified trance. Their collective will stretches across the Senate district like an invisible wave. In the surrounding government buildings, politicians and military officials experience a subtle shift in perspective. Fear and suspicion fade, replaced by clarity and an inclination toward truth. Chancellor Palpatine's influence begins to wane. Where once his words would have stirred panic or blind loyalty, now skepticism grows among key senators, bureaucrats, and members of the Judicial and Security Councils. The meditation bolsters courage and independent thinking without directly controlling minds, a gentle nudge toward the light. As the Jedi maintain this trance, calm and unity permeate Coruscant's political centers, quietly undermining the foundation of Palpatine's power. A short while earlier, Anakin had found himself in Chancellor Palpatine's private office at a critical moment. Palpatine had revealed his true identity as Darth Sidious, the Sith Lord behind the war. Shocked and conflicted, Anakin rushed to inform Mace Windu and the Jedi Council of Palpatine's treachery as the Sith Lord prepared for the imminent confrontation. In his office, Palpatine stood at the viewport, contemplating the next phase of his grand design. A peculiar ripple in the Force caught his attention, a coordinated energy radiating from the temple district. Before he could analyze this unexpected development, the doors to his chamber slid open. Mace Windu entered with 3 Jedi Masters, lightsabers already in hand. The confrontation in Palpatine's office is brief and explosive. Palpatine springs to life with a red lightsaber, cutting down Mace's accompanying Masters in seconds. Mace Windu presses the attack and manages to disarm Palpatine, bringing the Sith Lord to the brink of defeat. But Anakin's fear for Padme overwhelms his judgment. He intervenes at the last moment, severing Mace Windu's hand. Palpatine unleashes a blast of Sith lightning, sending the defenseless Jedi Master plummeting out the shattered window to his death. In that fateful instant, Anakin succumbs to the dark side. Pledging himself to Palpatine, he is anointed as Darth Vader, the new Sith apprentice. Recognizing the temple-based Force influence as a direct threat to his control, Palpatine immediately issues Order 66. He tasks Vader with a grim first mission: lead the 501st Legion to attack the Jedi Temple, the source of the disruptive Force influence that threatened to unravel decades of careful planning. As night falls over Coruscant, Darth Vader leads the 501st Legion up the temple steps. initiating Operation Knightfall. His dark cloak billows behind him as they breach the gates, neutralizing temple guards in a barrage of blaster fire. Inside, chaos erupts. Jedi fall to the coordinated assault while alarms wail through ancient corridors. But as fire and smoke rise from the temple's damaged structure, events unfolding across the government district would soon bring this brutal assault to an abrupt and unexpected halt. Though Palpatine sensed the Jedi's meditation, he had little time to counter its spread across Coruscant. While the clone troopers' inhibitor chips ensured their compliance with Order 66, the meditation's influence reached deeply into the Senate and governmental bodies. News of the attack on the Jedi Temple spreads through government channels with unprecedented speed. Senators and military leaders who previously felt unquestioning support for the Chancellor now find themselves alert to inconsistencies in his actions. Within an hour, emergency communications link members of the Republic Security Council with influential senators like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma. The Senate convenes an emergency session before Palpatine can organize his planned declaration. The Security Council, constitutionally empowered to act in moments of crisis, issues an unprecedented directive halting Order 66. This defiance infuriates Darth Sidious. In his office, he monitors reports of clone units disengaging, his features contorting with barely contained fury. Publicly, he feigns compliance, formally suspending Order 66 until the situation is clarified, while privately instructing Vader via encrypted comm to accelerate the temple assault. For the first time in decades, Palpatine's authority faces genuine opposition, his grip on power visibly weakening. Inside the Jedi Temple, the battle intensifies as the official halt to Order 66 cuts off Vader's reinforcements. Only the troopers who entered with him remain, the loyal 501st following their commander despite growing uncertainty. The 501st advances through the temple's corridors, now facing coordinated resistance. Jedi Knights and Padawans emerge from hiding places, their initial confusion replaced by determined defense. Clone casualties mount with each haul they secure, armored bodies marking their progress. Vader's attention fixes on the Tranquility Spire, the temple's tallest tower, where knighting ceremonies traditionally occur. Through the Force, he senses the meditation source, Jedi counselors projecting their influence across Coruscant's political district. Encrypted reports were coming through to the temple defenders. The Jedi recognized their meditation was actively unraveling Palpatine's control over the Senate. Protecting the counselors became paramount, and Shakti swiftly deployed hundreds of knights to fortify the spire, ensuring their efforts remained uninterrupted. Pushing toward the spire, Vader cuts down Jedi after Jedi, his rage intensifying. The 501st thins around him, veterans falling to the coordinated Jedi counteroffensive. At the tower base, Vader encounters heavier resistance, dozens of knights forming a defensive perimeter. He carves through them, accepting clone casualties as necessary cost. The ascent proves costly. By the time Vader reaches the spire's upper levels, only a small contingent of troopers remains. Breaching the antechamber, he confronts the final line of master defenders. Through the Force, he senses the counselors within the inner sanctum, their meditation the thread unraveling Palpatine's plan. The masters engage him immediately. Lightsabers clash in brilliant arcs as Vader directs his remaining troopers to create openings. Several masters fall, but Vader's advance slows. Inside the meditation chamber, the counselors communicate through their Force bond, recognizing the immediate threat to their survival. As one, they redirected their mental focus from the broader meditation to a concentrated attack on Anakin's mind. Force insanity, a technique the Jedi traditionally eschew, crashes into Vader's consciousness. His perception warps instantly, the chamber walls bleed shadow, and the masters before him transform into mocking apparitions. Padme appears, collapsing as she whispers accusations of betrayal. Obi-Wan emerges with Sith yellow eyes, condemning his fall. Palpatine's silhouette looms behind them, laughing at his manipulation. Vader's lightsaber cuts wildly at phantoms until his mother, Shmi Skywalker, materializes before him. "You were my shining hope, Hanny," she says, her eyes reflecting infinite sadness. "And now you are lost." Shmi's apparition suddenly pulls out a Tusken Raider's gaffy stick, a symbol of Anakin's guilt, and plunges it into his chest. With a scream, Anakin's mind reels in agony, and he collapses. In reality, one of the Jedi Masters had stabbed him in the chest with a lightsaber at that exact moment, ending Darth Vader's life before he can regain his senses. The Chosen One, turned Sith, falls dead amid the smoldering ruins of the temple interior. The remaining clones, leaderless and surrounded, are swiftly defeated by Jedi. Operation Knightfall has failed. Shortly before his apprentice's death, Chancellor Palpatine arrived at the Grand Convocation Chamber for the emergency session already called by the Senate. Sensing the persistent Jedi meditation affecting minds across the political district, he deliberately delayed addressing the assembly. From his private antechamber, he monitored the assault on the temple through secure channels. "Our moment approaches," he murmured to Mas Amedda. "But first, we must wait for Lord Vader to complete his mission." Through the Force, Palpatine perceived Anakin cutting through Jedi defenders. As Vader neared the consulars, Palpatine felt a shift in the Force. The Jedi meditation directed at the Senate began to waver. Palpatine smiled as he felt the Jedi's influence across the Senate district dissipate. "Lord Vader has completed his task," Sidious told himself. "Now," he said, rising from his seat. He strode confidently into the Senate chamber, ascending to the central podium as conversations quieted. The representatives, suddenly free from the subtle clarity the Jedi had provided, became receptive to his words once more. Palpatine began his address with eloquence, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. He spoke of the Republic's 1,000-year legacy, the shadow of separatism, and the alleged Jedi conspiracy behind it all. The senators, now drifting back under his influence without the Jedi's mental protection, absorbed his narrative without question. Their expressions transformed from uncertainty to attention as his cadence lulled them into compliance. He continued his indictment of the Jedi Order, claiming they had attempted to assassinate him and seize control of the Republic. Throughout the chamber, senators who had harbored suspicions minutes earlier now listened with rapt attention, nodding at his declarations of victory over the Separatists and the Jedi Rebellion. Palpatine savored their restored loyalty, assuming Vader had eliminated the Jedi consulars. As his speech reached its climax, Palpatine's confidence swelled. In order to ensure security and continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire. Palpatine stopped abruptly, his features tightening. Through the Force, he experienced Anakin's overwhelming fear, the apparition of Shmi, and then his death. His apprentice had failed. Worse, he had been destroyed. At that same moment, he sensed the Jedi consulars immediately returning their full concentration to their Senate meditation, the mental clarity surging back across the chamber with renewed intensity. "For a safe and secure society," he finished, awaiting the applause that should follow. Instead, the representatives' expressions transformed from acceptance to confusion, then to horror, as the Jedi's influence restored their independent thinking, precisely as Palpatine revealed his true ambition. Senators exchanged alarmed glances, then slowly, voices rose in opposition where he anticipated adulation. Palpatine stood frozen at the podium, fury building behind his facade as he realized the pivotal moment of his triumph had collapsed into the beginning of his exposure. From her platform, Senator Padme Amidala exchanged a meaningful glance with Bail Organa, their suspicions of Palpatine finally validated. Their coalition, including Mon Mothma and Garam Bel Iblis, found their position strengthened by the Chancellor's obvious power grab. The moderate Senate faction, previously hesitant to oppose Palpatine, now recognized his calculated path to dictatorship. As the Senate erupted, the Security Council invoked Order 65, their authority to remove a chancellor deemed unfit for office. The council broadcast authentication codes throughout the chamber and to military frequencies. Senate guards and clone troopers, receiving the Order 65 command, turned their weapons toward the former chancellor. Palpatine found himself surrounded. For a moment, rage contorted his features as his diplomatic mask slipped. Calculating his options, Palpatine recognized that violence would only confirm his guilt. As he was led away, applause swelled through the chamber. The man who nearly crowned himself emperor found his plans crumbling at the moment of their intended triumph. In the weeks and months following Palpatine's fall, several key events reshaped the future of the Republic. Most surviving Jedi emerged from hiding, answering the Temple Beacon's call once it had been restored to its true purpose. Grandmaster Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi helped gather the remnants of their order. Though diminished, the Jedi endured. The Jedi consulars maintained their meditation from the Temple spire throughout these critical days, preventing any lingering influence Palpatine might exert over the Republic's governance. With Palpatine's exposure and arrest, the Separatist leadership found themselves directionless. The promised rendezvous with Darth Sidious on Mustafar never materialized. Lacking central command and facing Republic forces, the Separatist Council surrendered unconditionally. At their tribunal, Separatist officials testified they had been following instructions from a mysterious benefactor known as Darth Sidious. This aligned perfectly with Jedi testimony about the confrontation in Palpatine's office, where he revealed his Sith nature and killed 4 Jedi Masters with Force abilities. The forensic evidence from that office, combined with the separatist statements, confirmed Palpatine and Sidious were one and the same, manipulating both sides in the conflict. The Senate appointed Bail Organa as interim chancellor, while Palpatine stood trial for high treason, war crimes, and attempted genocide of the Jedi. Holo recordings showing Anakin Skywalker leading clone troops into the temple were presented as evidence of Palpatine's corrupting influence. The trial exposed the depths of Palpatine's scheme, orchestrating the Separatist crisis, commissioning the clone army, and his identity as a Sith Lord. The verdict came swiftly, guilty on all charges, with execution the sentence. On the eve of his execution, Palpatine unleashed the dark side from within his cell. Force lightning killed his guards as he vanished into Coruscant's depths. Despite extensive searches, he could not be found. The Jedi Consulars maintained their protective meditation for weeks after his disappearance, gradually scaling it back only when certain his influence had been severed. Padme Amidala mourned Anakin's death deeply, choosing to believe the official narrative, that he was simply another victim following orders, another casualty of Palpatine's grand deception. She gave birth to twins, Luke and Leia, on Naboo, her will to live strengthened by the hope for a safer galaxy. While returning to her Senate duties on Coruscant, she arranged for the twins to be raised in Naboo's Lake Country, visiting whenever her responsibilities allowed. As the Republic celebrated victory, the Jedi remained vigilant. Whispers from Coruscant's underlevels suggested a shadowy figure roaming the Undercity. Peace had been won, but the forces of darkness were not fully vanquished. Master Yoda tied Palpatine onto a desk with plastic after putting pictures of dead Jedi all over the room, then chopped him up, collected a blood sample in a slide, and dumped the body in pieces.